"Do you see that?" Tyler asked. "No," Randall said. "I don't see a goddamn thing, Dad." Randall stood up. He descended the steps, pushing past his son. He looked straight at the man. Randall clenched his jaw. "See? Not a thing. Now go to your room. You see it?" Tyler screamed. "Go. Get off my fucking porch. Go to your room." He slashed at the air with the knife. He moved toward Tyler, who released the step railing and bolted inside the house, slamming the door behind him. Randall stared at the door. He sat back down on the swing and resumed his whittling. He started carving the smile onto the wooden figure's face until he could no longer see through the tears. He wiped his face on his sleeve. God damn it. Tyler remained in his room. He heard his dad finally drive away. For hours he looked at the ceiling, lying on his bed and trying to recall his brother, their life in Irwin, before Texas, before the explosion. Would he tell his mother? Would it do any good to bring her into it? Was his father protecting him, or was he slipping like the others? Tyler wondered if he was slipping as well. Tyler sat up. The front door creaked open and shut gently. He jumped off his bed and opened his bedroom door. "Mom? Dad? You guys home?" Tyler cringed at the way his voice cracked. He stumbled into the living room. "Mom? Duh." He stopped. He saw a figure standing on unsteady feet, looking into the decorative mirror on the wall. "Hey, Tyler, William?" Tyler whispered. Even after 10 years, he knew his brother's voice. William turned around. He looked thin, his cheeks sunk. The wool sweater he wore was in tatters. "I shouldn't have come," he said. "But the fires, I had to see them. You want to sit down?" Tyler looked at the couch. There was a plastic wolf mask on one of the cushions. "Don't mind that," William smiled. Tyler shook like a chill went through him. "Cold?" William asked. "No, hot," Tyler said. "We only have one window unit still working. Have you seen Mom and Dad yet?" His brother was alive. After 10 years he was here. "No, I can't. I wasn't supposed to come back." "Where did you go?" "We looked. Mom and Dad and the cops, the whole world was looking for you guys. We had to move. We had to leave everything." Tyler's voice wavered. He sucked in air to count. He tried to calm his anger. "Where the fuck did you go?" Tyler screamed. William nodded. He looked at the floor. He turned to the mirror. "Go to your room. Shut the door." "Does it lock?" They weren't commands. William's voice remained flat. "What?" Tyler asked. "Go to your room. Lock your door. I'm gonna get Mom and Dad," William screamed, a garbled, panicked screech. He screamed and slammed his head into the mirror, shattering it and sending out a puff of crumbled drywall. "It was supposed to be you," he screamed. Tyler moved quickly down the hall and closed the door behind him. He pushed a bookshelf against the door while his brother wailed from the living room. He struggled with his phone in shaking hands. Does he call the cops? Would they talk his brother down or just kill him? He tried to call his parents, but neither picked up. A crash echoed in the room. Tyler watched the shelf bounce from the door. The wood crackled. "Call them, please." "Before I do something to make you," William wheezed from the other side. "Mom and Dad aren't picking up," Tyler said. "Just calm down. I don't know what happened, but you're home now. Just calm down, not Mom and Dad. Just call them." The door bowed out, like a great force was pushing against it. Pieces of the laminate coating splintered. "If I call them, they'll kill you," Tyler said. "Call them. And don't you dare come out of that room." Deja vu. The last moment Tyler saw his brother's face, he was 4. He barely remembered anything from that age. But he remembered his big brother, 8 years old, picking him up and putting him in the closet. "You go to the back. You hide behind the clothes." Tyler cried. William had held his arm too tightly. Tyler rubbed the sore place on his arm and cried, "You stay here. You stay here until Mom and Dad come home." Tyler started trying to crawl back out, fumbling over the toys and boxes. William pushed him back. "You stay fucking there. "You come out," William hissed, wiping his eyes. "You come out, and I'll beat your ass. You understand?" Tyler nodded his head. "Don't you dare come out of that closet. Where did you go?" Tyler asked, leaning against the door. He made the call. The 911 operator begged him to stay on the line, but Tyler hung up. "After you left me in that closet? Far away?" William said. "Why?" Tyler asked. "You know what you did to us? Leaving like that?" "Yes," William said. "I saved you." He could hear his brother walk down the hall into the living room. After several minutes, Tyler stood up and faced the door. He gripped the knob, but then heard the sirens. He heard the front door open. There was yelling. Tyler opened his bedroom door. There were gunshots. The men streamed inside, guns drawn, and forced Tyler on the floor. One slammed Tyler's head on the wood laminate floors. Tyler knew most of them, but they didn't seem familiar now. William was gone. No body. The police admitted firing at him, but recovered nothing from the house. They questioned Tyler for hours that night in a room with cinder block walls and a cold metal table. Where was William? Did he say where he was going? Tyler said nothing. He knew a media frenzy would begin. William was one of the 726. But nothing happened. Lawyers arrived at the station. They took Tyler home. They shook his father's hand and offered condolences to his mother. They were sent, free of charge and care of Tex Nation. All word of William was buried. As far as the rest of the world knew, the 726 remained firmly in the ether. When he left the station, he could see the orange flow of the fires on the horizon. They were the only ones in the country seeing it. No one else wanted to look. His mother cried for 2 days. They gave her a leave of absence at work as long as she returned Saturday afternoon. That was their busy day. She never said a word to him until the third night. Tyler woke up to see her in his doorway. He checked his phone. It was 3 in the morning. "Mom?" Tyler asked. "We were almost whole," she whispered. She walked back to her room. Tyler sat up and reached behind the headboard of his bed, swatting at the wand until he was able to close the blinds. He didn't want to look outside. He recognized the journalist on the table, now missing for 4 weeks. He was assigned her case briefly before it disappeared from the roster. Her friends, her co-workers, all described a fun, happy woman with an acerbic wit and dreams of a journalist. A woman who loved her job. A woman who cut the world off and vanished. Here she was. Next to her on another table, with another white sheet pulled up to the shoulders, was a short, pale man with severe scarring on his head and along his jaw. Garrett, the morgue technician on duty, tapped a pen on the table the man laid on. "We eyed them both," Garrett said. He placed his hands behind his back and attempted to straighten his slumped posture. Skinny, absent a chin, and attempting to grow facial hair that was as light as it was sparse, Garrett seemed perpetually in adolescence. "Who's he?" Peter asked, pointing to the short, scalped man. Detective Peter Femia was on his 10th year, and on his 5th year of saying it was his last before he found a new line of work. Peter's husband, John, stopped celebrating because he knew his husband's quick glances at Craigslist for a new job or the occasional perusal of a university website was a show, but for whose benefit he was never sure. Tim Johnson, also missing for about 4 weeks or so, lost his job and walked away from everything. "We found them side by side in the alleyway 12 hours ago." "Robbery?" I asked. "Doesn't appear to be, but we do know one thing. They killed each other. Literally bled out in an alleyway, knives out." "Knives? Nothing special. Just serrated kitchen knives, probably purchased from a dollar store. No one heard a thing. No one saw a thing. They were found by a transient approximately 2 days after they died." "Thanks for calling me," Peter said. "Don't tell anyone," Garrett said. Peter asked if the bodies were different from the others that had been found. 2 bodies turned up in the Houseman Preserve, far from any maintained hiking trails. One was found in the aftermath of the Tex Nation fracking well explosion in Nobility, TX. 3 more in different parts of the city, including one literally laying in the middle of a busy crosswalk. Despite hundreds of potential witnesses, no one saw him drop down onto the street. If Garrett's autopsy report was correct, the deceased remained invisible for nearly 3 days before his corpse was struck by a car. Each body, among the old scars and days-old seeping wounds, had a large T-shaped incision on the chest, which appeared to be an autopsy scar, one that had healed. Major organs were missing for many of them, including hearts, livers, lungs. Eyes and tongues were also missing in some cases. Each body taken from the morgue during the night. Each day, Garrett found his reports missing. No one, not even the officers who called them in, had any recollection. "Can I have your notes?" "Copies, of course, and anything else you have," Peter asked. "Afraid not?" "No. Look, I owed you one, and we are way past even now. When I come back in the morning, they will be gone, along with my notes, security tapes, you name it, like they were never here. Anyone who would go to that much trouble, ensuring an autopsy is done with copious notes before just disappearing them? I'm not fucking with them. You know what I think," Peter said. Neither of these were one of those kids. We eyed them. No autopsy scar, but the rest of it, they're too much like the others. "It's a start," Peter said. "You gotta look." Garrett dropped his notes onto the table. "I'm getting a snack. Should be gone about 10 minutes. We're definitely even now, Garrett," Peter said. "We were even months ago. After this, I'm not calling you. Fair enough." Peter took pictures of the notes and of the bodies. The first body he encountered was about 6 months before. He couldn't shake the young woman's face. It seemed too familiar. He was on the cusp of falling asleep when he remembered. The TV special, the retrospective on the 7/26. The girl recovered in Houseman Preserve was identical to one of the women interviewed, a woman who lost a daughter. He went into the station early, only to find himself in a Twilight Zone episode. There was no record of the girl. No one had a single memory. He'd seen people hide the truth before. Hell, he'd seen his superiors conveniently forget details about a city council person's public intoxication arrest. But there was no wink, no veiled warning, no one remembered. But Peter did. He eventually found out that Garrett did as well. Despite his reluctance, Garrett agreed to contact Peter should any similar bodies arrive. Peter took notes. He took pictures. He stored them in a safe hidden in the floor beneath his home office desk. As Peter prepared to go to the higher authority on Friday, he came into the station Wednesday morning to find everyone shell-shocked. One of their own was dead, and by his own hand. A fellow officer shook his head when relating the story to Peter. Guy was losing it. He went to everyone he could. He even tried calling the FBI. He said the 726 were alive. He said there was some grand conspiracy to make people forget. They talked to us, but we had nothing. Chief suggested he take some time off, maybe see someone. Then last night, service pistol. Peter nodded along, talked about what a damn shame it was, and decided he needed more evidence. He might only have one shot at exposing this. It needed to be airtight. He wondered what would have happened if he ever crossed paths with this man. Could they have cracked this together? Maybe not. Apparently a conspiracy had formed, and the only one that could ever truly succeed, one in which the participants were completely ignorant of their involvement. He decided tonight he would remain in the morgue. He would see who comes for the bodies. John was out of town and Peter didn't have a shift. He would wait. Even 10 years later, he found it so hard to fathom. In one night, a Across the continental United States, 726 children vanished in the middle of the night. In 10 years, there was not one lead or confirmed sighting, aside from occasional paranormal nonsense popping up online about black-eyed children or UFOs. What baffled the detective more than anything was how quickly the world acclimated to the case. Everyone simply accepted that this happened with no explanation. The world didn't stop. But over the years, he came to understand people acclimate to anything. He watched his own government lock up children they stole from their families at the border, imprisoning them for the crime of believing in the goodness of his country. How many were lost, just as the 726 were? Of course, on the anniversary, people's interest in the 726 renewed, but that's all it was, interest. Not horror, not disbelief, but interest. What a curious happening, everyone seemed to muse, all those kids going missing. On the 10th anniversary, when interest should have reached a zenith, Marble Springs happened, and then Nobility's fracking disaster shortly after buried the story even deeper. There was no room for the 726 anymore. Not that lack of interest would deter Peter. The morgue's chill burrowed into his bones. The room always held a boreal atmosphere, but waiting in the dark, his muscles stiffening and heart stopping at every sound, he felt frigid. This was a bad idea, Peter said. Not even the gun on his hip eased him. In the dark, he felt vulnerable. Even in the corner of the room, eyes fixed on the only entrance, he was exposed. Who were these people? The bodies of the journalist and the man were in their respective freezers. They bore all the scars of the others, except for one. They vanished as adults, not children. How were they linked? You seem like you're deep in thought. Peter pushed back against the wall, drew his gun, and he raised himself slowly. He held the weapon out in front of him with steady hands. A man stood in front of the freezer. "How did you get in?" Peter asked. "I walked in. Same as you. Who are you?" "My name is William." The man appeared to be in his early 20s, black, wearing a dirty gray sweater. A plastic wolf mask laid on one of the bare tables that sat between him and the detective. Peter kept the gun raised. He took a step forward, then another. William remained still. He looked at Peter with boredom. "Why haven't you forgot?" William asked. "I don't know." Peter asked. "At one time, you could have joined us." "You don't forget. That's a rare attribute. What's happening? Where are you taking these bodies?" William crossed his arms and let himself fall back against the freezers behind him. He leaned against them and stared up at the ceiling. He said he had no intention of taking the bodies anywhere. They were different. They would burn. "What do you mean, burn?" Peter asked. He lowered the gun but kept his hands gripped on the weapon. "You want to know?" William asked. "Yes." "Are you ready?" William asked. "Yes. Talk to me." Peter roared. "My name is William. 10 years ago I was stolen along with 725 others. I'm the only one left. Before you ask, yes, they're dead. All of them." He continued. "The people who took them came in person. 2 men. He was sure one of them was probably human. They just came in the house?" Peter asked. "We let them in. We had to," William said. "Kids are so much braver and caring than we give them credit for, especially when the lives of their family are at stake." "Why did they take you?" Peter asked. Everyone was so far off. It wasn't sex trafficking or slavery, and we weren't shipped somewhere to be a child army. We were candidates. We had 10 years to learn, to train, 10 years to be changed. But Hart only needs one of us. Hart? Adam Hart, like Hart and Sons? Peter asked. He never saw William move, but he felt the hands on his throat. On instinct, he dropped the gun and tried to pry them off his neck. He felt the warmth of William's breath on his ear. The grip tightened. "The bodies?" William whispered. "They are sent to him. Hart keeps what he needs and gives the rest to an associate. A hungry person, Peter. Very hungry." These? They weren't prepared properly. They will burn. Peter. Peter, I am saving you. Peter's voice choked and gasped, raw and desperate sounds. All air left his lungs in spurts. He saw dots on the edge of his vision that became shadows and darkness converged. I am saving you. I thought God would intervene. I thought Jesus would come down and stop them. How could he not? How could he not act? But the hill exploded. I saw the fires myself, and the only person trying to help, you. Only you. So I'm going to save you. Then I'm going to save my father, and my mother, and my brother. He loosened his grip, his hands ached. The body dropped to the floor. He wiped his eyes and tried to blink away the tears. Don't worry, it's going to be so much worse for me. Peter burned. William laid out the bodies of Jamie and Tim beside the detective. William left for nobility. He needed to save his family. 10 years before the children left, he came home. Returning after 90 years, he found a town that forgot. Trees, decades of leaves, and wild growth fused into an impenetrable mass which buried the scorched remains of the Smars family estate. He hired a team to locate the grave, another to dig until they hit the casket. He told them to brush the dirt away until he read his father's name engraved on a brass plate, nailed to the lid. That it? One of the men in the grave asked. Their employer walked to the edge, looking in at the two exhausted men, the brass plate, and the exposed portions of the wooden casket lid. After all this time, it remained. He ordered them out. He needed to be alone for the next part. They hesitated. Should the old man kill himself crawling into the hole? How would they be paid? Everything was cash. They dealt only with him. Now, boys, he said, I'm a lot more spry than you think, especially for a 75-year-old man. He smiled. Gentle, soft eyes, white hair, a modest brown suit. He could be on his way to a grandparents' dinner at the Nobility Elementary School. The men crawled out. He told them to wait for him by the house. They would be paid shortly. The men nodded. They brushed the clumps of dirt from their knees and legs. They left their tools behind, and once the crunch of the brush and grass beneath their feet silenced, and they seemed to fade into the night, he crawled into the hole. The wood crunched as he fell against it. The pain radiated through his arm and shoulder. He was feeling too much. He needed to work faster. He gently knocked onto the wood, as if he expected it to open and an old friend to greet him. A fainter knock reverberated from within. He smiled and chuckled. He could hear a voice, a dry and raspy moan, call out. A weak voice, frail and pathetic from a century of neglect. Satisfied, the old man crawled out of the hole. He called to the men. When they drew close, he reached into his coat pocket and brought out 2 envelopes. I'll throw in a little extra if you fill in the hole, if you please. The men exchanged looks. That's it? Dig it up and bury it again? One asked, as the other urged him to shut his mouth. That's it. You've both performed admirably. A house, under construction. A labyrinth of wood and steel and brick. A behemoth of hallways and turrets. Even to the crews working around the clock, the home's layout made little sense. Not that any crew sticks around. He's seen to that. Strict non-disclosures about what they've seen. Crews dismissed with generous severance checks as another clocks in. Not a single one could as much as draw what the house will look like. He's in the lower levels, the bowels of the sprawling estate that seems to sprout rooms and stories like a fungus, spreading out over the acreage. In the lower levels, the only complete section, he's hidden it all away. Everything his journey has accumulated. Everything excavated from Houseman Hill, once Tex Nation, owned through Hart & Sons via a number of shell companies, started construction on a massive fracking well. All his work, every mile, Every dark corner of the world he inhabited, every heinous act committed that scoured and tore at his soul, came to these moments in a quiet room, standing before the mirror. These moments staring into the glass as his reflection gave way to darkness, cavernous darkness, a world of rock and cold seemingly inches from his face. The glass was jagged and misshapen, a broken shard from another time, buried for a millennium, hidden away, a small piece of a greater truth. The shape came, the figure that seemed to pull itself from smoke. If he could describe the being before him, he would say smoke and bones, teeth and worms, death, rot and disease, skeletal, wrapped in black tendrils, pulsating and adhering to the bone, tying the thing together, the god in the glass, death. You again, the creature hissed. Me again. Is your request the same? Yes, life, forever and unending. You have it? The being leaned in. He could see into the creature's eyes, at the inky orbs that pulsated. The eyes that seemed to slide and slink and curl within the sockets. The skeleton was human, or a close approximation, a prop, a costume of bone. He wondered for whose benefit did the creature wear it? I don't. Not yet, he told the being. I traveled the world for it. Turns out it never left. It's never been far from Houseman Hill. But it calls to its owner. It called to a family in Marble Springs years ago. I can't take it from him, not yet. We have time. There is more to do. Are you still willing to pay my price? Are you still willing to prepare the way form? Always. Next time I will expect a gift, it said. Of course. I will have many for you. The creature nodded, the smoke dissipated and the mirror cleared. He felt drained. He dropped to the floor, his heart throbbing off rhythm, his veins dark and swollen on his arms. Minutes passed and he pulled himself up. He stumbled to the wall, sliding along it as he made his way to the door, leaving behind his library. Outside, one of the crew waited. Sir, sun's up in 30 minutes. Should we start packing up? Yes, the old man sighed. Thank you. You're welcome, Mr. Hart. Only the ticking could be heard. The old grandfather clock, originally her mother's, stood as a leaning sentry in the upstairs hallway. Even as a child, she hated it. But the tick-tick seemed destined to follow her. After her husband's death and a severe stroke 5 years prior, Anita seemed bound for a nursing home. Her granddaughter wouldn't hear of it and placed her in a spare room. She could wheel herself into the hall, listening to the sounds of her great-grandchildren fighting and arguing, sounds that irritated parents but provided a sense of calm to great-grandparents, a sense that it all goes on. Even as your life approaches an end, part of you and those you love lives on in these loud little voices. As a young woman, she found 6 hours per night optimal. As a woman in her early 80s, 2 seemed to do the trick. She found the quiet peaceful, or she would, if it wasn't for the tick-tick-tick of the clock. Her granddaughter seemed so proud to have found it in Anita's attic. Anita thought she threw it out years ago, but always melted when she saw her husband smile and her mother's eye when her granddaughter's face light up. She heard the floor creak, followed by the sharp staccato squeaks of her grandchild's bedroom door. The oldest was up. Lately, Anita often found Carla waking up in the night, wandering, or as she would tell Anita, thinking, you're like me. You don't need it much, do ya? Anita said. Well, tell you what if this is our time, huh? Just me and you? Carla looked up and grinned, and for a moment, Anita was a young woman looking into her daughter's face. She melted, of course. She pulled herself out of bed and deposited herself into her chair. Anita came out of her room and called out in a loud whisper, Carla, why don't you go grab us a snack and we can visit? She stopped. Turning her chair, she saw a tall figure outside her great-granddaughter's room. The figure was in a black and white checkered shirt, green corduroy pants, tall and wide, with skin that appeared waxy and yellow. The figure turned around. "Who are you?" Anita cried. The man put a finger to his lips. His eyes were black orbs, set far apart until they were nearly on the side of his face. His nose flat against his face, she could see pinhole nostrils. No hair, no eyelashes. Carla's door opened wide, and Carla walked out. She sniffed and rubbed her nose. "Carla?" Anita asked. "What's happening? Who are you?" "Reggie?" She called to Carla's father, but another man stepped out, in a dark suit with a blue tie. He wore dark leather gloves. He looked like a politician, like he was about to shake her hand and explain how his tax plan would float all their heads above water. "They won't hear you," he said, his voice cheerful. "Did you?" Anita stammered. "No, they're sleeping. We make them sleep, but you don't sleep, Reggie," Anita screamed. Carla kept her head down. The politician kept a hand on her shoulder and squeezed. "Please, don't wake them. That's not pleasant," he said. "You're scared I'm going to upset them? What is going on here?" Anita started to wheel towards them. "Carla, just run, girl. Run downstairs quickly." "I can't," Carla said in a low voice, head down. "Don't mistake my threat for an attempt at politeness," the man said, squeezing Carla's shoulder harder. "Carla is going with us, with the others. The great many chosen, the 726. She may be destined for great things, Anita. She's ready, aren't you, Carla?" Carla nodded. Tears ran down her face. Anita reached them, but the man simply put his foot on the front of her chair seat and pushed her back with a slight kick. He whispered to Carla, and she headed downstairs slowly. He closed Carla's door. He looked at Anita and gently shook his head. "How long do they think it will take them to notice you're gone when they're looking for her?" he asked. He followed Carla downstairs. The other man, the one who kept his finger to his mouth the entire time, lowered his hand and walked slowly to her with deliberate steps. He lowered down on his haunches. Anita found herself staring into marbles instead of eyes, dark orbs with no life. He smiled, but the smile wouldn't stop. The grin went up the side of his face, past his ears, almost to the top of his head. Small white needles started to protrude as teeth bulged from his mouth in multiple rows. Anita wasn't ready.